Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya and this is the 2023 Tata Nexon facelift. Now do note, this is the second facelift Tata has given the Nexon. The last one came in 2020 and it gave subtle updates to the exterior, tweaks on the front and rear. But this is a comprehensive reworking of the exterior styling. It almost looks like a new generation, but it's not, it's a facelift. Because the platform remains the same, powertrains remain the same, dimensions also more or less remain the same. This currently marks like a sort of a renaissance for Tata right now, as they've updated 3 of their 4 major SUVs. That's the Nexon, the Harrier and the Safari. Safari I recently reviewed, and this is actually the model that kicked all of it off. So I'm going to walk you through all the changes on the outside. I'm going to walk you through the updated interior as well and the few mechanical tweaks here and there to tell you what it is like to drive on our roads. Apart from that, I'll tell you where it sits in the segment. So let's get into all the changes. Now Tata has done a fair amount of work with the styling of the front end of this new facelifted Nexon. Some of you might catch on to the fact that a lot of these elements have been picked up from the curve concept that was shown at the 2023 Auto Expo. New to the Nexon facelift are these split headlights. They're very sharp units. I really like how they've integrated it, and they go just along the bottom of the bonnet line. They merge seamlessly into this new grille, which is not really a grill, but it looks rather cool, and it also makes it easier for the Nexon EV version to look similar to the new Nexon petrol version and diesel version as well. Other things I like are the headlights. These headlights look really nice. The LED units, sort of similar to how they've incorporated both the Harrier and Safari facelift headlights. They've got this slightly squared off design that gives a little bit of visual width at the front, making it look wider and more planted. Apart from that, the bumper is also really nicely sculpted. I like how they've, scooped out sections out here, and even the air dam comes seamlessly in with the rest of the design. There's also a 4-skid plate that is finished in white, and I'll take a quick second to really appreciate this flame red color. I wasn't initially sure whether I'd like it, but in person I think it looks really eye-catching. Before we get on to the side profile of the Nexon facelift, I want to touch upon all the changes that have been done around the back, because there are quite a few of them. First up, there are the new tail lights. They've got this Y shape on either end, and they're really smart. Like, the LED elements look very sharp and crisp and definitely make the car look much more modern than the outgoing model. Some might argue that it looks a little Hyundai-esque, maybe like the i20, but it still gives it a very unique and quirky character around the back. The tailgate has also been reshaped. It's a little more sculpted than it was before, and the bumpers have also been reprofiled. They've got a rectangular element on both sides housing the reflector, sort of mimicking the design up front. And again, because it's slightly more boxy, it does add width to the rear of the Nexon, makes it look a little more planted than it did before. The lower part of the bumper is actually quite simple. There is just the skid plate at the rear, 4-skid plate. It's finished in this white color, and there aren't really any visible exhaust tips, though there is one down there on the both petrol and diesel versions. Besides that, another cool touch is I like this integrated spoiler. It looks very sporty. It's got quite a sharp angle, and more interestingly, what Tata has done to get rid of some of the visual clutter at the rear, they've removed the wiper, which would otherwise traditionally sit here, and tucked it right under the spoiler, keeping it out of sight, out of mind, very minimalist in its approach, and I think that's a good step. Just like with other recent Tata SUVs, the Nexon also gets a cool animal motif Easter egg on its windshield. In this case, it is a tiger. The profile of the Nexon facelift does not have a whole lot of changes, and many of you will be able to spot that quite easily. The silhouette remains unchanged, as does this nice character line that runs from the front fender all the way to the tail lights. This is a line I really like. I think it sculpts the side and breaks up the visual mass a bit. The stuff that's new here, those 16-inch alloy wheels, they have a new aero blade inspired design. I'm not a big fan of this styling in general, but I think in person they do look good on the Nexon. I wish they were a size larger, 17 inches instead of the 16s that are on the car, but I think the platform limits what Tata can fit to the Nexon, especially because of the way they tune their suspension. So we might have to wait for an all-new generation to see 17 inches from factory on the Nexon. Besides that, other things, the humanity line, as Tata calls it, which is this accent that runs under the window line. This has been there from the original Nexon. It's just finished in gloss black here. And also, Tata has fitted a matte black finish on the A-pillar as well as here on the C-pillar to give the illusion of a slightly floating roof for the Nexon, which is a cool touch. It makes it look quite sporty. The roof rails are not functional, but they are finished in silver. They give it a slightly rugged appearance. And down here, the plastic cladding is no longer all black. It's actually got body color on the top and only black on the lower section, which I think makes it look less bulky and suits the Nexon better than it did on the pre-facelift version. On the inside too, Tata has done a fair bit to make the interior a lot fresher than what the pre-facelift model was. The Nexon facelift gets a reworked dashboard design, which is slightly lower set than what the older model had. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the top spec Fearless variant that gets that really gorgeous 10.25-inch touchscreen in the center and the digital dials. I have the part digital instrument cluster as well as the old smaller 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system. But because this is the mid-spec model, I still do get the other new design touches, such as this insert out here. It's a textured plastic insert. Looks sort of like faux carbon fiber, but I won't complain. They're not trying to go all out carbon fiber. There's a nice leatherette finish on the lower part of the dash, and it's even got like stitching. It's not real stitching, they've just textured it, but it looks quite good from a distance. The screen, we've seen this before. It's not really got a whole lot that's different. You still need a wired connection to access Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Phone connectivity is there. There is no inbuilt navigation, so you're going to have to use your Android Auto for that. But apart from that, the other big change on the inside is the steering wheel. Now, I like the aesthetic look of it. I did like it in the Safari as well. This one, being the lower variant, does not have the dual tone finish. The higher variants do get it. But my main issue with this is again the usability. Like you really have to press that horn really hard in order to get it to work, and it just looks like they've done design over function here. Another thing is the gloss black section in the middle. It gets fingerprints so easy. Like, you really don't have to make a lot of effort to get it dirty, and that's not something I'm a fan of, especially because how often your hand is going to be going on the steering wheel. The steering controls are pretty decent. There is your instrument cluster switch out here, which only lets you cycle up and down, and it's got an OK function. Your volume and track control for media is here, call, Bluetooth, and your voice assistant. But there's not much else apart from that. This 2-spoke wheel does feel nice to grip, and the paddle shifters are also quite tactile to use. They're not metallic, but they're finished in this silver metallic look. It looks like faux metal, and they've done a good job with it. The indicator stalks are as they were before. AC vents also feel fairly solid. The start-stop button is here. Another thing they've changed on the inside is they've gotten rid of the physical controls for the AC, which is something I'm not a fan of. I didn't like it on the Safari. I don't like it here. Only saving grace is that the fan speed controls are a toggle switch here, as are the temperature. So it's not as fussy as the Safari system where they had touch-sensitive fan controls here. Again, because there's the mid-spec model, it's missing the 360-degree camera button right there. And the rest of it works as it does. I don't particularly like how much fingerprint smudge goes onto the center console. And also these buttons aren't the most responsive, especially on the move. Like hitting the emergency light button took me 3 tries right then to get it. It's a design choice. I know it's minimalist, but I guess you'll learn to live with it. Another thing that is a design choice is this gear selector. It looks very premium and out of something that's much more expensive, but in application it proves to be a little clunky to use, especially because the button up front is not the easiest to press, and somebody new getting into the car will struggle to move it from, reverse to drive. So that is something you should keep in mind if you're taking a test drive of the Nexon. Now, your drive modes are here as they were before. You have City, Eco and Sport, and they do somewhat alter the throttle response and mapping of the car, but it's not night and day difference. So again, it depends on the version you've got. This Turbo Petrol does a decent job. Instrument cluster has all your basic information for vehicle and other notifications. The only thing it's lacking is there is a driver assist button, but the second you click it, there is nothing there. So it really feels like you've been shortchanged on that. Now, while we are up front, I will talk about the seat comfort also. Tata has restyled these seats, and they have bolstered it slightly differently. Also changed the cushioning. They are a little better in my opinion than they were before. Earlier I always found them to be a little too high up. Now I can at least get them as low as I want them. The cushioning is a little on the stiff side, but I guess once you break them in, it'll be fairly comfortable. Again, mid-spec variant, so these are fabric seats. They actually have a fairly nice finish out here. It's like this gradiented greenish grey finish, which looks rather smart in person. And they've even got that slight pale silver insert on the seat here to sort of match the exterior accents. Now, because this isn't the top spec model, it does not get electric seat adjustment. It is manual, and so is the height adjustment. It does get driver seat height adjustment, but not for the passenger seat. And unfortunately, we also miss out on seat ventilation, which is a function I really like, especially in our hot summers. But I guess you have to splurge a little extra for getting some creature comforts like that. Now, the Nexon has a very reassuring thunk to the handle. Even when you shut it, it feels very sturdy. But right now I am sat here behind my driving position. I'm 6 feet tall, and you can see there is about no knee room left for me. Like, I can probably just fit my finger in, but there's nothing else there. Headroom is pretty good. Like, I do have a couple of inches of, about 1.5 inches of headroom. So I'm good on that front, and I do like that the headrest is adjustable. But this knee room, I'd really struggle to do long distances back here. Like, I'd really want someone a little shorter up front. Now, again, mid-spec model, so there are a few less creature comforts back here. You still do get the AC vents, which I like, but there are no charging sockets out here like you do get on the top spec model. And there is no center armrest, which I feel is a big miss. Feel like that should come in lower down in the model range. It shouldn't just be reserved for the higher variants. Safety quotient's always going to be good. The Nexon did get a 5-star NCAP rating, and I'm sure the facelift one will also do that. Top spec model gets 6 airbags. Even this mid spec model gets that. There are ISOFIX child seat mounting points right here. Both sides get them, and you get all the ABS, EBD. The automatic variant gets traction control also, but yeah, rear seat comfort will leave you wanting a little more. I think maybe something like the Venue would be a little more comfortable, or the Brezza. This is about at par with what the Kia Sonet's rear seats are. Also, there's no recline function on these seats, so you can't even, it's not in like a one-step recline, so you are stuck to this angle. And I think on longer distances, especially because there's such little space for me to stretch out, you'll sort of feel quite cramped. Now the boot has an electronic release right there at the base, but it is only hydraulic, so you do have to pull it up. The shape is fairly usable. I'll use my little laptop bag to show you how much space there is. You could easily get 2 medium-sized suitcases and an overnight bag inside. Below the false floor, you get your full-size spare and your safety triangle and other tools. If you need more space, you can even fold down the middle row to get increased cargo capacity. Under the hood, the Nexon facelift still comes with a 1.5-litre turbo diesel and 1.2-litre turbo petrol engine option, along with a number of transmission options. The model I'm driving is equipped with the turbo petrol, which makes 120 horsepower and 170 Nm of torque. Power is sent to the front wheels via a new 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox Tata calls DCA. Driving the Nexon, the 1.2-litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol, it's quite linear, I would say. For an engine that makes about 120 horsepower, it doesn't feel extremely peppy at low speeds, but as you spool up the motor, it definitely does feel a little more responsive, or more like as it gets going. Now, the Nexon has always had a pretty decent ride and handling package. Even though Tata has said they've retuned the suspension, honestly, all the good characteristics of the previous Nexon have been carried forward. It is very stable at high speeds as you get to triple-digit speeds, and it feels very stable out on the highway. Like, it makes for a very nice highway cruiser. Now, low speed ride quality is also very nice. The suspension deals with small, medium road imperfections very well, and that is in part due to the suspension setup that Tata has done a great job with, but also the wheels, the 16-inch wheels with the thick tires on them. They do make it that much better in terms of its ride quality. Large imperfections, you do get a little bit of it filtering into the cabin, but honestly, it is one of the better riding compact SUVs, and there's a real sense of robustness to the suspension. It feels like it can tackle pretty much all the bad roads you chuck at it, and it doesn't feel fragile like some of the other cars do in the segment. Now, the steering is very nice and light to use around town, and being a compact SUV, One of the big selling points is its maneuverability, which I remember doing with the Safari and being quite concerned about making it through there, but it was a breeze. There's honestly no need to even think twice about making it. Now, this is the mid-spec variant, and it doesn't get the full digital instrument cluster, but you do get a large multi-information display in the middle. Let's talk about insulation for a second. As you can see, when you step on it, it really does make a fair amount of noise. At lower revs, it's fairly quiet, doesn't make a whole lot of ruckus. Now, I was never a big fan of the old Nexon's dashboard. I felt like it ate into the sight out a bit too much. I like how they've revised it now, made it a little lower. Let's quickly talk handling. The Nexon is fairly good to handle. It has a light steering wheel at low speed. It doesn't weigh up a whole lot as you pick up pace, but it gives you enough feedback to keep you engaged. And it corners fairly flat as well. There is body roll, but it is well dealt with. I do wish it got a little heavier at highway speeds to give you that sense of confidence when driving faster. But in the city, this lighter steering rack is it's a lifesaver, especially when you're going through bumper to bumper traffic or maneuvering through tighter streets. Now, this DCT gearbox, it is quite fast, though I don't think it's as fast as the ones you see in the Hyundai group cars. I feel like there's a step behind that. Even compared to the Volkswagen group cars have some of the best dual clutch gearboxes. This one feels quite smooth going through the cogs. At low speeds, even at faster speeds, you might even be fooled into thinking this is a torque converter, not a dual clutch. But it's definitely a big step up over the AMT gearbox. That head nod that comes when you're going at speed with the AMT, that is not there, which is great. All things considered, Tata has done a very impressive job with the Nexon facelift. It has thoroughly updated the styling, making it quite eye-catching and almost look like a new-gen model, while the interiors have also been refreshed significantly, making the top-spec Nexon one of the best-equipped SUVs in its segment, taking that spot from the Kia Sonet, though I still think the Sonet has the slightly higher quality cabin. These updates are no small feat, as the Nexon still has to take on rivals from the extremely competitive compact SUV space. These include the Hyundai Venue, Maruti Brezza, Mahindra XUV 300, Nissan Magnite and Renault Kiger, all of which do their best to avert buyers' attention away from the Nexon. However, one of the hallmarks of the Nexon, which was its value for money appeal, has taken a slight hit. The Nexon facelift is now one of the most expensive models in the segment, with prices ranging from Rs 8.1 lakh and going up to 15.5 lakh ex-showroom. Even this mid-spec creative variant that I drove costs 12.2 lakh, making it almost as expensive as some of the top variants of its rivals. That's a lot, especially when its rivals come with more refined and slightly more peppy powertrain options. Don't get me wrong, it is still a big step forward for the Nexon, and this SUV still makes for a great choice for anyone looking for a robust and techy compact SUV with a very modern design. I hope you guys enjoyed the review of the Tata Nexon facelift. I think Tata has done a great job with the facelift overall. There's a lot that's changed outside and inside. I do wish I got the opportunity to drive the higher spec model. I hope in the future I will get to do that. But I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on the Tata Nexon, as well as what your favorite SUV under the 15 lakh rupee mark is in India right now, down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, do hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with anyone else who you think would like this sort of automotive content. There's a whole lot more headed your way in the future, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, cheers.